Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with an article from Red State from May 11th. And if you look at the title of this video, you kind of know what it's about, but the actual title of the article is "The Atlantic just published the most hypocritical, sociopathic piece I've ever seen." And I didn't want to put that as a title because it wasn't me that was actually reading it, so it's not told from my point of view. It's told from Banshi's point of view, the writer of the article, and you should follow him on X. Very good. So let's get into it, because, as I said, the left is coming after John Fetterman now. Remember, they didn't want to come after him when he was actually brain damaged, but now that he's, supporting Israel, they're like, no, we just can't have that. So it says, the mainstream press being full of partisans is not exactly a novel discovery, but sometimes a piece comes along that is so brazen that it even surprises me. Jonathan Chait's latest over at The Atlantic fits that bill. We aren't just talking about typical levels of left-wing bias. What ended up published crosses the line into outright sociopathy. And I did see something about this. I'm trying to remember. I know it's Jonathan Chait who is just, like, if you were to look up what a hack is in the dictionary, it probably has a picture of him. And calling him a hack might actually be an insult to, hacks. But anyway, it says, entitled "The Hypocrisy of Fetterman's Defenders," the premise isn't about the years on end that journalists like Chait spent defending Senator John Fetterman, Democrat of Pennsylvania, claiming he was perfectly mentally capable to ensure Democrats kept control of the Senate. Instead, it accuses the right of committing that sin. Yeah, so he just, as I said about Democrats, they just disregard all the things their side does when they go after the right. And what their side does is almost always worse. Okay, so that's kind of the case here. So it says, this is an artist painting his masterpiece, and I want to start from the beginning because in the first paragraph, Chait's laughable level of hypocrisy is already laid bare. And so this part highlighted here is what it said in the actual article. It says, remember the days after President Joe Biden's barely coherent debate performance when Democratic dead-enders insisted that nothing was the matter? That was embarrassing. But apparently it wasn't so embarrassing that everybody took away the correct lesson, because something similar is now happening between Senator John Fetterman and a coterie of admirers on the right. Conservatives are now doing the exact same thing that the Biden defenders did, denying the obvious unfitness of a politician because he's politically useful. And back to what Banshi is saying, it says, did you catch the sleight of hand there? According to Chait, it wasn't discovered that Joe Biden was a mental invalid, completely incapable of carrying out the duties of his presidency, until his disastrous late June debate performance during the 2024 election. And of course, I think we all know that we were all pointing this out back when the 2020 election was going on, at least at that point, if not even before that. So, yeah, kind of left a very important thing out. So it says, based on that framing, he now wants credit for not continuing the charade and turning to Kamala Harris as an alternative. Yeah, how'd that work out for you? It says, is that accurate, though? Not even close. Biden was demonstrating his senility for years before that. Hundreds of different examples were chronicled of him forgetting the names of his cabinet members, getting lost on stages, falling asleep during meetings, slurring his words continually, and even mixing up his wife and sister at one point. It was not honesty that motivated Chait to turn on Biden after the debate. It was political expediency rooted in his belief that the former president could not beat then-candidate Donald Trump. If you want proof of that, look no further than Chait's response to Biden's train wreck of a presser in February 2024 following the release of Robert Hur's report. Recall that the former special counsel had accused the then president of memory loss and incoherence while answering questions. And again, when this all happened and that came out, we were all like, rational people on the right were going, well, yeah, we kind of knew this already. People on the left were like, no, that can't be possible. So it says, how did Chait respond? It says, by insisting it was a pretty good performance, and dismissing Biden confusing the president of Egypt with the president of Mexico as a who cares moment. And that's the embedded tweet right there, because this is a dude that's always going to run interference for Democrats no matter what. It says, returning to Fetterman, none of what is happening is new. We are talking about a guy who opened his 2022 debate by saying, good night, everybody, before spending the next hour demonstrating his complete incoherence. How did Chait respond? By insisting his condition was temporary and attacking Republicans who said he wasn't fit for office. And here is kind of this. And Stephen L. Miller, who I've mentioned before, you should absolutely follow. He's great, and he goes after the media, pretty hard. So, just going to leave that there for a minute, right here. Scroll back down. Getting back to the article, it says, when people pointed out that Chait's article was shameless, lacking basic self-awareness, he then tried to draw a distinction between what he saw in 2022 and what is reportedly happening with Fetterman today. And he just basically said, yeah, none of you have read it. Okay? It says, let's be clear. There is no actual distinction to be made here, and Chait's attempts to manufacture one is again rooted in political convenience. There was no reason to believe that Fetterman's condition was temporary in 2022, which was demonstrated by the fact that he ended up in the hospital a month after being sworn in. I remember that now, and I think his wife was up to some shenanigans then too, because his wife is kind of one of those women that's just her ambitions outlie her station sort of thing. Anyway, it says, if anything, Fetterman has become more coherent in 25, because his brain is healing, though he clearly still has issues. To pretend it was perfectly reasonable to defend him when he was running for Senate, but isn't today is insane, countered by all available evidence. In his piece, Chait admits no wrongdoing regarding the cover-up of Biden's senility, while pretending he has the credibility to lecture people on the right for holding Democrats to the standard they set. To be clear, I don't think anyone currently defending Fetterman thinks he's a picture of health, though again, he's more capable today than he was when he was elected. What they think is that Chait and his cohorts are only noticing his issues now, because now he's become a political liability for the left, and it's because of the Israel situation, and that's obviously true. Claims to the contrary are simply sociopathic dishonesty dressed up as real concern. Yeah, and I would suggest going, and if you have, was it The Atlantic, if you have like a subscription to it, because I think their stuff's behind a paywall from what I've heard. I do not have a subscription to them, and I would recommend not getting one to them because they are just garbage, and that's an insult to garbage. I'd go read this article, and you're going to see that basically everything he accuses the right of doing, like he himself was doing in regards to Joe Biden for years. So, again, to be a Democrat, you have to just completely forget about reality and all the stuff that your side, and even you yourself, did. That's much worse than what's going on now. So let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.